Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, February 16th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. We're talking college basketball today, zeroing in on Wednesday's game between Kansas and Kansas State in Manhattan with beat writers Jesse Newell, Bedore and Kellis Robinett. The Jayhawks are back in the polls and riding a three-game winning streak. Two of those victories came against Iowa State over a three-day period. Jalen Wilson's been on fire for Kansas with 4 straight double-doubles. The Wildcats have struggled all year and ride a 12-game losing streak into the game, but they have played better of late. There were competitive losses to Texas and Texas Tech, and they played a good second half in their most recent game at Oklahoma State. K-State guard Nijel Pack is having an excellent freshman season, and he'll be the Wildcats player to keep an eye on Wednesday. So let's get started talking Sunflower Showdown with Jesse Newell, Bedore, and Kellis Robinett. All right, guys. I'm looking out the window here in my bedroom/studio. It's sunny. But when I check the temperature, I've got -6 in mine. Kellis, I saw -18 in Manhattan this morning.
That was what it was when I woke up. It was not warm.
Little nippy, and we're also lucky to have Jesse and Gary with us, and they are without power in their houses right now. They're placed in Lawrence, so hope you guys are staying warm in Lawrence right now.
For now, we are.
Yeah.
Check on us.
Mine actually just clicked back on.
All right.
Oh,
so
wow.
the power is currently on here.
Oh, brag about it, Gary. Yeah, thanks. Brag about it.
How close do you guys live to each other?
A couple miles. Damn. No dice for me.
All right,
Okay.
Jesse, you should run to Gary's house, and we'll see if you can get there before the end of this thing.
Okay, the occasion that brings us all together, besides the Arctic blast of weather here, is the Sunflower Showdown on Wednesday night. Kansas travels to Kansas State. It's the second meeting of the season between these two teams. My first question, and this is a jump ball. Anybody take it, please. Why did this game get moved? It was originally scheduled for tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday. It is now being played on Wednesday. It was Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Now it's being played Wednesday at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. So on the internet. Does anybody know why this game was moved?
It was to help KU out because they had to play 3 games last week. They thought giving them the extra day would be beneficial.
Yeah, I could have fought Kellis for that jump ball, but that's exactly it. KU was exhausted from playing Saturday, Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and then obviously having the back-to-back with Iowa State. So, Bill Self's talked a lot about the fatigue factor and not trying to wear his team out. And so when that thing did come out, that was sort of my first guess, but it did become more evident after hearing Self talk about it that was the main reason to give them just another day off.
Yeah, Bruce last week said he was mad when the Big 12 initially decided to make the move, but after seeing his players get worn out themselves, he agreed. He thought it was a good move.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Kellis. I think K-State's had similar stretches this year where they've had a bunch of games in a short amount of time.
They have nothing like KU playing 3 games in 1 week, but I thought it was interesting that this last week when K-State went down to Oklahoma State and lost and didn't have a whole lot of energy in the first half, Bruce Weber kind of threw up his hands and said his guys were just tired. So that's something we have here, and that they were dealing with some interesting travel stuff too, because I think they had to bus down to Stillwater when they normally fly, and they had to leave early because of all the weather, and I don't know when they even got back. So I think in hindsight, I mean, shoot, they're one of these are some of the playing this week. Everybody else has just gotten their games flat out canceled.
Well,
Yes.
the Texas schools for one, yeah.
Self made a good point that this year you can just cancel things because there's no fans really to be inconvenienced. Like nobody would be shocked if right now, because of the cold weather, they said we're going to play at 1 p.m. tomorrow. and it would not inconvenience 13,000 fans, just about 1,000. They could just do – this year they can just do anything on the spur of the moment.
They do, and they have. And for the sake of deadlines, I would love for them to move the game to 1 p.m. on Wednesday. How good would that be? So, hey, while we're on the subject of scheduling, I haven't noticed this does K-State have any games to be made up, Kellis?
They've got one, and it's a biggie. They need to make up their game against Iowa State, which would be played in Bramlage. And though I'm sure not many people outside of Ames, Manhattan, want to see that game, that's one that both of these teams actually feel like they could win. Be a great battle to finish it not last and decide who's the 10 seed of the Big 12 tournament. I absolutely hope they get it played.
And what I noticed about KU's schedule, if they play the games that are left on the schedule, they'll have finished their 18-game conference schedule by February 27th, and the conference tournament doesn't begin for another week and a half after that. There would that's a long stretch. Gary would I noticed North Carolina put out a tweet yesterday looking for a game like we've seen high schools do. And you think would Bill Self be interested in playing a game between the end of the regular season and the conference tournament?
I think so. They do have a slot open. Tarleton State. That was their only cancellation this year. Plus, I think KU had the Iowa State game, but they haven't said they're looking for a game yet. But that is a long period of time to go without a game before the postseason. So I wouldn't be shocked if they look at that and pick one up.
They should play Fort Hays State in that window. What could go wrong?
With the state championship at stake. All right, Kellis. The game's in Manhattan. Like I said, 7 p.m. on Wednesday. The Wildcats are riding a 12-game losing streak.
Thanks for drawing it out. Thanks for drawing it out as you say that.
Well, it is. They have played better of late. They were competitive in the losses to Texas and Texas Tech, and had a nice stretch early in the second half against Oklahoma State where they cut a 20-point deficit to 4, and then the folks put it into gear and ran away with it. So, is that enough of an encouraging sign to think that they can play tough on Wednesday? And will the rivalry alone kick in and bring some energy to the Wildcats?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it'll be closer than what we saw in Lawrence when Kansas won 74-51 and just basically did whatever they wanted against Kansas State. And at least in my opinion, I didn't think the Jayhawks played a really strong game that day and still won by 20+. So I think in that aspect, it'll be quite a bit closer. I don't know if it'll be all the way, down to what we saw against Texas where it's a last possession game. But I think single digits, you could expect that with an outside shot and an upset just because this is a game, here in Bramlage, Kansas State circles every year. It'll be a little different without the venomous fans to cheer them on and boo the Jayhawks. Maybe there's still enough of them in there that it gives them a slight home court advantage. But you're right. The last 3 games, we've seen an improving Kansas State team. They played Tech really tough. I think they really probably should have beaten Texas. They just got a little unlucky and played them on a day when they shot 50% from 3. Basketball gods were against them on that one. The one time they come out and make shots of their own, the other team makes even more. Then against Oklahoma State, they fought back. They looked good in the second half, but still lose by 7. It's just an odd dynamic right now. They are improving, but they're still just not to that point yet where they can really afford any. I mean, if a team goes on even a 10-0 run against them, it makes it awful hard. You saw they go on a 16-0 run against Oklahoma State and still lose in that game. So they're fighting an uphill battle, but at the same time, they are improving. I think we'll definitely see a closer game than the first time around. I just don't know if it's going to be enough for the upset.
Yeah, 16-0 run, and they don't take the lead. That's how
right.
much they were buried in that game and had such a bad first half. But so on the other side, Kansas, the schedule softened a little bit, and the Jayhawks playing well right now with 3 straight wins, 2 over Iowa State, and Jalen Wilson's reminding me of the player that we saw in the first few weeks of the season. Gary, what's Jalen Wilson doing now that we didn't see from him over a kind of a lengthy stretch of the conference season?
Well, he's had 4 straight double-doubles, which is 3 off the school record for consecutive double-doubles. Drew Gooden and Rafe had 7, but Wilt Chamberlain probably had 50, and records weren't kept back then, of rebounds. Assist to Dean Buchan, who told me they started in 1973. But I don't know. I think he's just a consistent rebounder right now, and Self has got to like that, counting on him for 10 or more rebounds the last 4 games.
Yeah, what are you seeing, Jesse? I'm seeing the Jalen Wilson I saw against Kentucky and Creighton and some other early games.
Yeah, I think for him, it's kind of been an attitude swing a little bit. Early in the season, he performed really well as KU's 5-man, where he could take advantage of the matchup, going against a big man offensively, and it led to him being really aggressive in there. And we saw some of his rebounding skills against Kentucky, things like that. And then kind of in that middle stretch, KU sort of relied a little bit more on David McCormick going to him, and that made Jalen Wilson the 4 and made his matchup tougher. And, I think you hear the coaches a lot talk about the scouting report, how scouting catches up to you a little bit. And Jalen Wilson is very right-hand dominant when he drives. He doesn't drive left very often. So some of those things that he was doing early in the season with no scouting report weren't working as well the second half of the season. And plus he was trying to kind of figure out a way to coexist with David McCormick in there. But in the course of the last 2 weeks or so, it seems like they've kind of found a happy marriage there that, David's become a little bit more unselfish with his play inside. He's making more shots, and Jalen's kind of finding a way, especially on the offensive glass, to still, be active, get his points, and then in certain instances kind of initiate offense and throw players open and use the skills he has as well. So he was kind of probably, again, this is sort of armchair quarterbacking, and it's difficult to do, especially from afar when you're not at the games as much as we are in past years. But he kind of probably suffered from the worst body language of anybody on KU's roster during that stretch where it wasn't going well for him. And I think lately it's just kind of that's turned for him. It might have helped that Bill Self benched him for 1 game. Maybe that got him going. And he seemed to have played really well since then. And sometimes the Bill Self mind games work out. But yeah, I think it just seemed kind of a more energetic, better, more comfortable Jalen Wilson. And that's definitely been to a benefit of the team because they look a lot better when he's a lot better.
And they're going to need that Jalen Wilson coming down the stretch because after Kansas State, they've got 3 straight games against ranked teams to finish the regular season, right? Texas and Baylor. So Kansas absolutely will need to be at the best they can be. They've already lost to Texas and Baylor. Hey, Kellis. Nijel Pack is playing really well. I like the story that you did earlier this week on him and kind of comparing him to previous freshmen at Kansas State, freshman guards. And he stacks up pretty favorably, doesn't he, to the freshmen who have played under Bruce Weber? He
does. You could make a case that he's the best freshman guard that Bruce Weber's recruited at Kansas State, which if you're looking for a positive out of the season, it's Nijel Pack. He's looked really good when healthy. And really, if you look back at the window where K-State really, really nosedived and was losing games by 20, 30, even almost 50 at Baylor, it was because Pack was out. They did lose by 48 with Baylor with him in there, but they kind of rushed him back. It was his first game back. He wasn't himself yet. And I think it's telling that beyond that stretch, once he's got his legs back under him, they've been quite a bit better. And you saw when they've almost won these games, it's because he scores 26 points against A&M, 22 against Texas, and they struggle a little bit against Oklahoma State. It's because he has a bad shooting half, and he needs 16 shots to get 14 points. But when he's on, we've seen a nice little tag team scoring duo between him and Mike McGurl. It's just, where else are they going to get help to get over the hump and start winning these games? That's kind of the question right now. But when people talk about, there being a young nucleus of talent, even though the team is losing, it's because of Pack. And they were super excited when they got him. They made a really big push before anybody else could. I remember kind of at the time, they don't normally really ramp up recruiting until the fall, and they can get back when kids could take visits. They wanted all their recruits here on campus to see the football atmosphere and get a real vibe for campus. But with him, they were so fearful that other schools would see him on the AAU circuit and offer him and push him out of the picture that they recruited him early. I remember actually I was playing golf at Colbert Hills like one June day, and I see Bruce and all the coaches coming in with Nijel Pack. I'm like, oh, really? They're doing that like now? I thought this was traditionally not a recruiting season. Then later that day when I was on like hole 15, I see a tweet come through that he'd committed. I was like, oh man, they really, really wanted this kid. And you can see why. He's good. And if he'll stick around for four, I guess, even possibly 4 more years if he really wanted to, he could have as high a ceiling as Barry Brown or any of these other guys.
That'll be a Marcus Garrett assignment, don't you think, Jesse or Gary? Don't you think it's either it's Marcus Garrett on Nijel Pack?
Well, yeah, it's like they normally do. It's a group effort for KU just because they'll start him on Pack, but they switch everything. They switch everything on the perimeter. So some good matchups with that. They can set a guard-to-guard ball screen and get Christian Brown or something like that on him. But that's sort of how KU's defense rolls. I mean, they try to take you out of any actions you do, any screens, any runarounds, anything like that by just continually, constantly switching what they do and trying to make it very difficult for you to run your plays. It does hurt a little bit that, it's harder to stop individual players sometimes because you don't just stick Marcus Garrett on a player. But overall, it's worked out well for Kansas, and they played their best game of the season in that regard against Iowa State. I put a few tweets out about that, but their switches were really good. Their communication was good. And they're starting to get their ball screen defense down to an art after switching that up last month too. So, yeah, if you're K-State, you need to get the ball in Pack's hands. You need to get him kind of lost a little bit. And you need him to make some threes. And as a team, you need to make some threes because if you're not scoring from three-point range against Kansas, a lot of teams have had some trouble scoring. That's really been the one bugaboo for Kansas. So if K-State's going to stay close, I'm seeing 8, 9, 10, 11 threes going in for them. And then KU potentially going really cold on the offensive end as they've had a tendency to do early in the last few games.
K-State is the worst three-point shooting team in the conference. I'll just throw that out there. And KU's faced those teams in the past, like Texas, and they went super hot against them. Tennessee was a poor three-point shooting team, and they went crazy from them against them in the first half. So this is not a problem that Kansas has not been able to fix for opposing teams in a one-game sample. So, even with that, even knowing that for K-State, I think you need to fire up. It's been really, really tough to score inside against Kansas this year. They have the best 2-point defensive percentage in the conference in league play. And that's something to say when you've got Baylor in the conference, you've got Texas Tech in the conference. So to have that top number is saying something. So KU's definitely doing something right in the paint, but that's really the one spot you can get them.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Okay, Bill Self said something at his press conference earlier this week. I don't know if I've heard him acknowledge that the NCAA investigation has hurt recruiting. We've talked about it. I think it's pretty obvious that it has. But Gary, am I wrong about that, or is that the first time we've heard Bill Self say it?
I think yesterday might have been the first time he admitted it or acknowledged it or said it, whatever. Recruiting's been interesting because the class with Michael Hurt, who went to Duke, they lost Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, and that's probably the big one. I would think that him going to Villanova at the last second, he probably was scared away by possible sanctions. But that class had several guys. The other ones, as Self pointed out, in 2018 they got Dotson and McCormack, but I think it has hurt recruiting, but he hadn't mentioned it much. He did say that the NCAA investigation still doesn't look like it'll be over till early fall or late summer. So I don't know if it'll still continue to hurt him. They got 3 guys for next year. One of them is top 25. So Zach Clemens wasn't scared off about it. But if they do get sanctions, guys can always change their minds and transfer. So I think it's hurt them some. A lot of the true one and dones, they want to play in the NCAA tournament, but they don't want to be in college more than a year anyway. So, Kentucky got some of those true one and dones, and they're doing terribly this year. So I don't know what everybody else thinks, but Self obviously would like to get this over with. But then again, he doesn't want to get hammered with a 1 or 2 year postseason ban. So in his mind, he's probably got mixed emotions because it still looks like they might get a pretty significant penalty.
Yeah, and what about Jalen Johnson for Duke opting out of the season, final few games? So I don't know. It seems to be a national conversation that one and dones maybe with the seasons that Duke and Kentucky are having that we might see a change in philosophy. I don't know how big a change we'll see. I think you're always going to try to recruit if you're John Calipari or Mike Krzyzewski or Roy Williams or Bill Self, you're always going to try to recruit the best players in the country. But maybe you sprinkle in players that are not one and dones and can you expect to stick around in the program and become glue players for your squad. Play 3 or 4 years. We'll have to see about that. All right, guys. Hey, good conversation. We got to get Kellis out of here because he's got another Zoom call, and we all have another Zoom call and at the top of the hour. So, Gary Bedore, Jesse Newell, Kellis Robinett, thanks for joining us, and hope the power stays on for all of us throughout the day. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Fingers crossed.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Kellis Robinett, Gary Bedore, and Jesse Newell for stopping by and talking KU K-State basketball. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we have another deal for you. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/sportspass2020. That's kansascity.com/sportspass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, send me an email, bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I will get you to the right place. So, whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode.